remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts or call them at 466-4938.
And welcome to another episode of Thought That Get Results. I'm Webbo Herbert, and as per usual, we're here every Tuesday evening with something that at least we think is of community interest and of some concern. And if you think that you have something which fits into that category, you'd like to find out how you can be a part of the program, well, why don't you drop us a line, address it to a Let's Talk program in care of Vaughan Radio, P.O. Box 195 Charlestown in Nevis. So give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and 01700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment, perhaps you can write it down on a piece of paper so that you're well organized, and getting on the show you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to always be forceful with your point. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community, Thought That Get Results. You can also follow our live video stream of this program on our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio, on our YouTube channel, Vaughan Radio. Click subscribe. Thank you all again for joining us. As advertised, and we mentioned it last week, this evening we're going to speak and pay homage to the super heavyweight of them all, Edric W. Stanley, who in his opening comments would say something to this effect: it's an obligation to be here, and so on. So we'll have some of the stuff that he normally says. We would like to hear what is your favorite quotation or saying from him, and so on and so forth, and let us know whether you appreciate the contribution he made, not only to the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, to the community across the world, because he likes also to say, I'm sending out this from the microphones of Vaughan Radio. And also Hastings R. Daniel, an early participant in the heavyweight panel as well, and you know we lost him a couple of days after Edric, right? So it was a double whammy, and all I can tell you, it hurts, but over time some of us are able to understand and appreciate the goodness that folks have done, and knowing that the end will come for everybody. And so the contribution that you had made, and if you left the world a better place, and we focus on that. So that is what we are going to be doing. Also, because Edric and Hastings too, them fellas like politics, like I don't know. And the election was last week, United States election, and we can say the world. The last thing I remember asking, Naya, who's going to win? He said Trump. I said, Bran, who's going to win? He's laughing, but that's not what he did last week. He said Harris. And I said, Fifield, who's going to win? He said Harris. Give an account of yourself tonight. What I want to do is you all play the part of Edric, because Edric would have said Harris, Trump will lose. Naya is solid because he can back his point up. So all that we will do, and we'll do it in honor of the guys, as I said. So, Roger Fifield, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to my fellow panelists, and of course good evening to all those who are listening via the various mediums, Webbo. Webbo, thanks for the invitation again, and tonight, as you would have said earlier, we're going to be paying homage to two of the stalwarts, two persons who help to make this particular program what it is today. Two persons who I can say personally I would have learned something from, Webbo. So I am really happy to be here to have a discussion, that would surround them, Webbo. I am hoping, as I said, that persons would call in. I know that a lot of persons listen to this show, and I'm hoping that they would call in and, share their views and express themselves here. And of course, as I often say, this program is a program that we here can learn something from you, the callers, the audience, and of course, you can probably learn something from us too. I'm hoping that this evening, as usual, would be a fruitful one. And Webbo, thanks again for the invitation, and I'm looking forward for the discussion.
The Honorable Spencer Brand, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and a very pleasant good evening to my colleagues around the table tonight. Good evening to your hardworking and wonderful staff here at Von Radio. Good evening to all those who are listening and viewing this edition of our Let's Talk show for tonight. Paying homage and paying tribute to two very extremely talented legends, the one and the only Edric W. Stanley and Mr. Hastings Daniel. Webbo, I believe that tonight's show and the idea of paying homage and tribute to Edric and to Hastings Daniel is an idea that I believe that, knowing Stanley, he is somewhere smiling, looking down at us and wondering what all of this is about and what all of this is for, but that's just the nature of the man. Webbo, I want to take this opportunity in my opening introduction to offer condolences to all those families who are in mourning tonight, whether it's the loss of a family member, a loved one, a colleague, a friend, or an acquaintance. I hope that they can remember that individual with fond memories. I know that it's not an easy process going through, and many families who are in mourning tonight, I hope that they can find some semblance of comfort in the loss of their loved one, their friend, their colleague. Webbo, to those who are celebrating tonight, whether it's a birthday, an anniversary, or some accomplishment, I certainly want to wish them a wonderful evening, and I hope that they are having a grand time in their celebration, and I hope that they can continue to move from strength to strength as they celebrate. Webbo, I want to thank you for the invitation, and I am indeed looking forward to tonight's discussion. It is the People's Show. We are here to participate in this discussion, but I believe all in all that the general public, the listeners, the viewers, they have an equal, in my mind, an equal role to play with their contribution, and we certainly want to hear from them, especially tonight, as we pay tribute to, as you put it, Webbo, the super heavyweight of them all.
Conrad Nine Library, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and once again, I want to say thank you for having me. I also want to pay tribute to Edric Stanley and Hastings Daniel, the names that are highlighted tonight for this discussion, to very active individuals well known in the community. Webbo, we gather as usual to discuss issues affecting the people and anything we deem that is of importance to the community and to the people. And as you know, I'm always happy to be a part of this conversation. Webbo, I want to say thank you very much for having me, and again, I'm looking forward to a healthy discussion this evening.
Okay, now what I want to do early, I got some clips of Edric, and I'm going to play them intermittently as we go along. But I would like folks, most importantly, to call, and I'll take your call whenever we can get them, and we really like to hear from you. So 469-1616 or 469-1700. I'll start off with a clip, and so folks who don't know, don't remember, or whatever, you get a little idea. I myself don't know the content of the clips. My team here, I tell them I need some stuff. Edric had so much stuff, They just left me a note and said the stuff is there. So here we go.
Section with the invoices. That is the part that disturbed me, because I could give you a little story. Once you've got several items for different dates, for different amounts, carrying the same number, it tells you that there is something fishy about it.
Fellow Nevisians, and more particularly the voters within the district of St. John, I'm Edric Stanley, a candidate in the upcoming elections due to be held on June 1st, 1992. My party name is the St. John's People's Party, and I'm running under the banner of the hat. My symbol is the hat. It covers the head. Therefore, in this election, please use your head. Let no one fool you. Let no one mislead you. No document can deny Edric Stanley his birthright. I was born here, and no other country has any jurisdictional authority over Edric Stanley. Thus, I have the constitutional right to run. Therefore, those who told you that I could not participate in this election were trying to lie to you. They were trying to fool you. And they lied and lied to you. Thus, if they lie to you now, they will lie to you again.
How many people remember when Edric ran the first time? You know what I'm saying? And I'm just listening there, and a few years ago, I think last week I mentioned it. So he likes this term, don't let anyone fool you. Yes, remember he told me, Webbo, she can't fool you. Okay, so you all can comment if you like at this time.
Webbo, I thought that Webbo, Edric used that term because I believe that his main goal and his mission was to try and get our people to think for themselves. Don't allow anybody, quote unquote, to spoon feed you and lead you, as he would say, down a rabbit hole. I believe that was his main goal and his main mission. Even all of his presentation here, he tried to speak to the people of this country and speak to the people of this federation that, listen, you have a brain, you have a head on your body, think for yourself and don't allow anybody to mislead you and fool you. And I thought that was his position and his mantra for many years. Listening to him and being in this room here with him, he always tried to say to the people of Nevis, say to the people of St. Kitts, say to the people of the world really that, listen, God gave you a brain to think, use it, and don't allow anybody to mislead you or fool you.
I think 1992 was the time when Edric had returned to Nevis not too long ago. I could remember working for him in those very early days when I made a tank for him, when he was saying that, gas price is going to get very expensive because of the Gulf War. And I think the Gulf War was somewhere around 1991, 1992. Yeah. Edric was full of energy and of course happy to be back home, wanted to contribute in many different ways, and I think he had that scope that he feels like he could have entered the political arena and makes a difference. Probably being away for that long, he probably didn't understand the he didn't seem to, he had a political party, put it that way, so one cannot describe him back then as an independent candidate. But so he had a political party, which we didn't, obviously didn't go to any heights. But I think at the time he probably didn't understand the real difficulty that may exist in starting a new political party. But he was, that type of person who was very, very ambitious and influential. And then, of course, running in St. John's, and he lives in Church Ground. He think he probably could have gathered some traction there. But that was Edric, and most of us returning back home, we're full of ideas, and we want to share those ideas. And of course, Edric being a political minded individual, he thinks he could have put some direction to things. And but unfortunately, that party didn't grow in its importance, and I think he became slightly, probably for a short while, associated with the NRP before he probably shift again, as like a political hungry individual who wants to participate, who wants to contribute to the island. He came back here very shrewd in business, building his own building, doing his own construction. And he wasn't an easy card then, and I could understand that people may have said that, he can't run because he's been away for so long. The younger generation didn't know much of Edric Stanley, but I think he made himself absolutely clear when he stated that they're trying to fool you, and if they fool you once, they're going to try fool you again. And I think that is obviously a good statement to make in politics anyway, because I'm sure he was referring to his political opponents then. So that was Edric Stanley. A lot to learn from on his return to Nevis. As I said, I functioned around him for a while, but very shrewd, and a person who definitely thinks he can do it all by himself.
Webbo, I would like to chime in here at this moment, Webbo. Webbo, I'm happy that you played that clip. It bring back a little memory, and I believe that Mr. Stanley wanted to make a difference, and I believe that he learned quickly. The reason why I am saying this is because we know that in St. Kitts Nevis, the populace, for some reason, we do not gravitate and accept third parties. It's just basically two main parties, of course the NRP and the Concerned Citizens Movement. He would have run, and back in June, I think he said the elections was the 1st of June back in 1992. He was defeated, and I believe that he quickly recognized from there on the history and how it actually panned out, so to speak, in terms of the importance of being a part of an established political party. Hence, sometime thereafter, it might have been as soon as 1993 federal elections, he ran for the Nevis Reformation Party, if memory serves me right. And I'm saying this to say, if we look back at the political landscape, so to speak, we would recognize that the Concerned Citizens Movement would have first won the election in June of 1992. And what happened then is that the Mr. Gishard, that is, Malcolm Gishard, he would have won the St. John's seat. And thereafter, up to present, the NRP and the Concerned Citizens Movement, as simple as it may seem, the party that wins the St. John seat is the party that always take the government from probably way back as after independence. So that is something that I believe Mr. Stanley, the type of person he was, would have studied and understand. He understood, I believe, that hey, I can't have a third party and be successful, so let me just join a party. And as I said, he joined the Nevis Reformation Party. He was unsuccessful in winning the seat, but we understand the type of person he is. He, in this clip that you played, he spoke to the hat. The hat was a symbol, and yes, he.
Let me get this because Roger.
Hi, good night.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, again.
Hello, good evening. You won't listen to the phone, okay?
Yeah, I'm not listening. I cannot get this the radio station.
Hello. When last you tried?
I cannot get the radio station down here anymore.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you, Webbo.
Okay. When last did you try to get it?
Yesterday.
Okay. Walk with me. Try now.
Yeah, because I like to go and listen to you all.
And also another thing we have.
Okay, so you're hearing me? You heard what I said? So try now, right? And if you don't get it, let me know, because you should, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Go ahead, Roger.
Yes, and so you know, I like the little line when he asks the constituents, you know, to use the head, to use the head. Sorry, his symbol is the hat, and he wants them to use their heads. But I'm wondering too if this might be a light moment, if he really needed them to use their hands to make that X. So, but you know, and he spoke to, you know, and let persons know that he's an individual, he was born here, and he also said, you know, if they're going to tell a lie to you now, what they are going to do after, you know, and I believe that those lines were really powerful lines and punchy lines. But such was the person, such was Stanley, you know, a man of man, Webbo, a man of men.
Webbo, you are correct when you said that Stanley entered into the political arena as far back as 1992. That was the first time I actually voted here on the island of Nevis. I was at that age when I was able to vote. But Webbo, while Mr. Stanley was not successful either on the NRP ticket or as an independent or under his own umbrella, Edric Stanley has been one of the, in my mind, one of the greatest political influencers here on the island of Nevis. Sitting at this rostrum and using, so to speak, this pulpit, this bully platform that he have had over these many decades, he would have encouraged, he would have suggested, he would have instructed, so to speak, the electorate throughout the island of Nevis, and I would even dare say throughout the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and try and encourage them.
Take this. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Yes, thanks. I get it now. I get it. I couldn't get it for a while, eh?
Yeah, I know that, and we apologize sincerely for that. But when we have issues, that's what we do. We work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So tell all your friends now that we're back, okay?
Yeah, I will, eh?
Okay. You remember Edric Stanley?
Yes, he used to come on the radio.
And you know how he passed away?
Yes, sir. Okay. I don't send my I can't do it.
Well, send them now. Send it now so that everybody can hear you. Say what you thought of him, whether, you know. Go ahead. You know, I like to say, walk with me.
Well, I'm sending out my condolences again to his family and friends, and, you know, tell them to cheer up, and I wish them all the best.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And again, we apologize, but we had some technical difficulties, and we worked them out. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, Brian, go ahead.
Yes, well, I was saying that Edric Stanley would have used this platform to try and influence, so to speak, many outcomes in many elections here in the Federation. While, like I said, while he was not successful as a candidate himself, I believe that he was one of the greatest influencers when it comes to politics on the landscape of St. Kitts and Nevis. He was, as we would say, a straight shooter, and he would call it as he see it. He would try to say to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis what they should do, and encourage them and make the argument for them to do, according to him, what he thinks that they should have, what they should do. So Webbo, yes, he ran. He was not successful, but apart from that and aside from that, I believe that he was one of those great influencers when it comes to the political landscape here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yeah, prefer, I don't like to say much at this time because I said much before. And even with you gentlemen, I hope that I've succeeded in letting you know how much we appreciate what you do, with us. And that is how I like to say and show what we do. Now, I'm not saying that other folks must not do it their way, right? But that's how I like to do it. But as I mentioned this morning on the other show that I do, that in those days, not everybody were able to say politics. Let me get this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Thank you for taking my call. Good evening, Mr. Herbert, and also members of the panel tonight.
Good evening.
Yes, I am not going to disguise my voice by just talking and not saying who I am. I'm Jean Clark from Bath, and I would like to give a little contribution to Mr. Stanley, now departed. I really don't know him, to be honest, but from the moment I started to listen to your show, Talk That Get Result, in the days when Mr. Hobson was one of the panelists, I just really admired Mr. Stanley. He spoke with precision. He was very intelligent, couldn't deny that. And I learned a lot from him. I used to look forward to tuning in on Tuesday evenings just to listen to Mr. Stanley. So if no one else would, I would greatly miss him. And I convey my sincere condolence to his family, and hopefully they will understand that it's a road we all have to travel, but we're here for comforting each other, and may his soul rest in eternal peace. He was an admirer. At least I admired him when he came on the air. And one last thing, I do remember when he said in the last election that very confidently, my horse will come home. Yes, I remember that very distinctly because I was visiting at the time and I stayed up all night to hear the returns, and I remember very clearly his making that statement, and he was correct. So may his soul rest in eternal peace. I will really miss hearing him on the show going forward.
Jean, thank you, and it's good to hear from you.
Nice to speak with you too.
Yes.
All right.
Have a
good night.
Yeah, you.
Thanks.
Yes.
Bye.
Okay. Who was it, Bran?
Yeah, Bran was talking about his political influence. No doubt, Stanley wasn't a man on the fence. He, as Mr. Bran said, was a straight shooter, and he would like everybody to know where he stands politically, and very much a person who can influence the people, who can educate the people, and he had that ability to move people in the direction which he thinks was the right direction. I think he remained a serious political player on the political landscape.
I don't know how much influence he did in Anaya, but I'll come back to that. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Herbert. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm well, thank you. Good evening to your panel. This is Pastor Lonnie.
Good evening.
Hi. I'm from Church Ground, and I don't really want to speak about Mr. Stanley, the politician, but Mr. Stanley, the community man. And from Church Ground, after Mr. Stanley would have come back home, he made it his business to get to know all of the persons within the community. And he was very approachable, he was very helpful. And he practiced what the Bible preached, in my opinion, in that he did not let his right hand know what his left hand was doing. And so any kindness that Mr. Stanley did for anyone, that was between him and the person. And so I just want to say to his family that Church Ground is with you, and we are continuing to keep you in prayers. And Mr. Stanley was loved, and he'll be missed. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening. Naya, that was just a light moment, you know, because that's what I would have done with Stanley when you said he influenced. Because I know he ran a couple times and he.
Yeah, but he, as I said, he remained that individual that people would listen to. You know?
Of course.
And he, as I said, he was never on the fence. The truth is about Mr.
But walk with me. This is what I would have done as well. I said, but Stanley, you're never on the fence, but you were in the water. I can remember you were thrown overboard.
Yeah, he's almost, he was escorted off a ship.
He loved to say that, you know. But he was a good sport.
Yeah, during his political career. But it's one thing for sure, when, you know, during the many years when people would meet me and talk about the program, Stanley would be the first they talk about.
Yes.
And he probably would be the last also in that conversation.
Yes.
For some reason. He was well listened to. The critics was all over him at times, but he had that strong personality and that.
Okay, Niall, come back to you. Sorry. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, Mr. Herbert.
Yes.
I'm just late. I usually call into this program, and I want to extend my condolences to the family of Mr. Stanley. When I listened, he spoke a lot of things with good sense and good wisdom, even though sometimes, personally, I didn't agree with what he said, but he was firm and he gets quite a lot. And what I've heard of him, indeed, he was a fine gentleman. I really will miss his contribution on this program. Again, condolences to the entire family, and may you find much strength in this your time of deep sorrow.
Okay, thank you. Naya?
Yes, I think all the callers, seems to mention, Stanley's very strong personality and his conviction to what he thinks, was right, and his interpretation of whatever the topic is. He doesn't back down, and I think that was one of his trademark. But I was saying, Webbo, that any conversation about the show on the street always start with Stanley. And sometimes you wish that they talk about me.
Well, if you all will remember, how many times I come here complaining, laughing, but it hurts. I said the girls will meet me. But who they talking about?
Edric.
Stanley. so they meet you, they talk to you, but they talking about Stanley.
Yeah. Good things and bad things at times, but I guess that's the nature of this program, where people would disagree with you at times, but no doubt Stanley have left a mark here, which I don't think it's going to be easily erased at all. I mean, over a few decades, and I personally have learned a lot from him. He took the show very serious, Webbo. In my early days of coming here, he used to remind me of this obligation, and today I feel very obligated. And I always, even when I was away, quite recently, I always wish that the panel is well, sufficient people there to carry the show, and I think I tend to get the importance and the urgency from Stanley. Stanley took the show absolutely serious as something which beneficial to the community, something that would enlighten the community, something that would uplift the spirit of the community. And so I can't help saluting Stanley, even though we had our ups and downs at times, both here on the program and off the program.
What people don't know, because we don't bellyache and I don't give excuses. Sometimes when people, you all know the term stood me up,
Yeah.
Yeah. So when people cancel out at the last minute, I said, Stanley, he said, boy, I come in. And he'll be here, you know, to make sure that things go on and stuff like that. And I suppose that you gentlemen have fit right in, because when I'm not here and the folks call you, you know you got to carry the load.
Absolutely.
And that's basically what we do. And, you know, I encourage persons who have, you know, a service to do, you know, to take a pattern from that and basically try and do it that way. And not everybody will appreciate it, because who gets 100%? I don't know. Right, let me go now and play another memory.
To be honest, I was set up to take on the former premier, and they knew, and I actually took the bait. I don't run from a fight, and unfortunately I lost, with the hope that on the next go around I would be running in my district. But politics is a strange game as a result, and the NRP put me to run against the giant, the late Vance Wentworth Amory. But I decided as a team player to follow through with the promise that I will run in my district. It never happened, simply because this game of politics, filled with tricks, misconceptions, and ultimately decisions by people who truly want to see you fail. So I was set up, but I learned quickly not to be set up again, and as a result, I actually left that ship. So where I am now, I am in a better place.
You see, I wasn't telling any lie. He left that ship.
Left the ship.
But he didn't leave. Stanley, hear me now. Stanley didn't leave. They throw you overboard. Okay, well, you know, like I said, the guy was good. Okay, go ahead, Roger.
Yeah. Webbo, as I said earlier, I think that he was, you know, a quick learner, and he actually said it there in the clip that you played, that he learned quickly, you know. So that is one of that was one of his attributes, Webbo. I think that he was a man of many hats, as one of the caller called in and she spoke about, you know, Stanley, the community man. And you would have had to like Stanley or love Stanley, because Stanley, he wore so many hats. You know, he was a cricketer, he was a pilot, he was a builder, he was a businessman, he was a politician. I mean, he was basically everything. And the thing about it, Webbo, he was very knowledgeable. He was very knowledgeable. You could have asked him questions about all of these different fields, and he would have been able to give you, you know, good answers. That was the nature of the man, Webbo. I believe that he's going to be dearly missed, and I believe that his name has already been etched, I dare say, in stone. You know, I believe people are going to remember Stanley, you know, for as long as they live, once they knew him before Webbo.
Well, that's exactly what I meant when I said Stanley was a straight shooter. He was willing to come and say to the world that he was set up, and he was not backing out from anyone, because that is how he felt. And he held that strong conviction that somebody trying to hoodwink him. But you know, Stanley, the man that he was, he kept moving on and keep moving on and keep moving on when it came to that involvement in politics. And I believe at some point he realized that, things were probably stacked against him, and he's decided to leave the ship. Webbo, Edric Stanley, in my mind, I felt was one of the few persons in Nevis who could run, or who could have run in any constituency on Nevis. He was that, in my mind, larger than life person when it comes to all things Nevision and the landscape of Nevis. It was something that I know that he tested, because he was more than convinced that, even though he knew that he was coming up, and he admitted it, that he was coming up against a giant, and he made it clear that he don't back down from any fight. And we have heard that fight here behind these microphones for many decades. We all know, Webbo, of this tragic and sad incident which he endured, and again he fought his way out of that. He fought his way out of that, and that was just who the man was, a fighter. Even though he may be down and out, he keep fighting and keep fighting and keep fighting. And I believe, Webbo, that over the years he would have, as Naya would have indicated, that he let us know in our own personal conversation that, listen, coming here on a Tuesday night is no joke. This is no joke. This is serious business. And like Myers before, both gentlemen would say to me that, listen, you have an obligation to the people of Nevis, that when you come here, you can't say Tuesday night were basically off limits for everything else. You have to be here.
Just let me take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Well, good evening, Webbo, and the panel. I'm here listening to this show, and boy, I miss Stanley, because a lot of times, and I lived overseas for a long time. Even when I'm overseas, I'm going to listen to the show because I want to hear what Stanley has to say. Stanley was just somebody who just make you laugh all the time. I mean, some of these things was way off left base and stuff, but you just have to laugh. But one of the things that really cracked me up is when he says, at this critical juncture. That's one of the things I never forget. And then he'll come with whatever he has to say after that. So, I just want to my condolences to the family and for all his friends and people who listen to him over the years, and especially to Van Wade, because I know Van Wade is going to really miss him as time passes by. You got to hear these words. This critical juncture. Webbo.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I just want to somebody repeat on that, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Oh, okay, thanks much. Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, well, I was just saying that Stanley made us all realize and appreciate the importance of our presence here, and the commitment that we have, that we must fulfill to our community by coming here and trying to have a conversation that can be, as it were, teaching moments. And he lived that. He lived that example. He was one who sometimes come here on Tuesday night, doing his business and rushing and making sure that he gets here for 7 o'clock. And that was the level of commitment that he had to this show and to the people of Nevis. And he will be certainly one of those individuals who we will never ever forget in our lifetime.
Stanley was an optimist.
Oh yeah.
Stanley was an optimist. Very optimistic person. Don't tell Stanley about unemployment.
That was a bad word.
That was a bad word for Stanley.
Yeah.
Stanley think that there is employment here in Nevis. Can't done.
You just
need to get up, get out there, or apply yourself, think of human needs, and try to facilitate it, get into business. Stanley was an optimist, and I like that about him. And sometimes me and he would have it out as well, because he would say, man, there's so much out there to do. And of course, as on the political platform, sometimes you would like to say, oh, there's unemployment, but not with Stanley. Stanley would feel like, and he feel like you can make it anywhere.
Yes.
Anywhere. One time I was talking about being in England and how difficult it is sometimes, for black people to break through the social and economic barriers that exist. And he said, foolishness. He said, foolishness. You just got to apply yourself. You just got to, and I like that about him. Stanley was an optimist. Stanley believed that you can succeed anywhere you are. As he said, a good batsman make runs on any wicket.
That's right.
And Stanley was a cricketer too. He was a boxer. He was a pilot. He was an engineer. And he was almost everything, really, and until it became funny. When you keep mentioning, the many attributes that he has. But very much an optimist, and I think someone like Stanley is a good person to listen to, really, because he would point out the areas where you can probably get yourself involved with, and again, he's very shrewd financially as well, and so he's a man who will tell you it's not how much you make, but it's what you do with what you make. That's right. And he's about that saving 10 cents out of every dollar. These attributes to me are very serious, to the younger generation, really and truly. And but I would say this again, I never come across an individual that is so optimistic and he can see light in a very dark situation, and so he was optimistic about Nevis, so he was optimistic about the Federation working together, and I think he always speak of the Federation as a diamond in the rough, just waiting for the right time. And now I sat here and I'm thinking, well, Stanley have left, and
who is going to carry that?
He probably didn't realize, the diamond, in its full implication. But he was very optimistic about, the islands being, a place to be, a place to do business, a place to function, and I think, as I said, I think he brought to a lot of people, a degree of self-confidence, a degree of hope, and some projection too, because Stanley don't want to hear nothing but unemployment. Stanley feel like there's work, you just got to get up and apply yourself to the situation. He feels like you can plant food, because of course we see the crisis that exists with food here in Ireland. And so he would, he was able to see light in the darkness, and I think that was one of his, attributes, which I think many of us can learn from going forward.
But now, Stanley lived that life of the endless hope, and his journey and his exploit in the Virgin Islands was one that said, listen, he went to the Virgin Islands. He would tell you that he went to the Virgin Islands with basically nothing. Mm-hmm. And so if he can travel in somebody else's land and was able to contribute and make it to the extent that he did, he's saying to you that, listen, there really should not be anything that should prohibit you from advancing yourself. And he had that mindset because he had lived it himself.
True. Because he saw from a different view.
Yes.
And he understood, right? Because a lot of people, sometimes we don't even see opportunities. True. Because it comes sometimes masked, right? It comes in hidden places and stuff like that. And he might not want me to say this, but he's something like Trump. You sure you want? Walk with me. He will agree with me in the end. And the guy, and the guy who did Nike, just do it. But too many people have too many excuses based on what they used to think or what they used to know. He was the kind of person who will take on a challenge. Yes. And if you fail, let him laugh, at least you try, but you're a little closer to success.
Yes.
Once you have already failed.
Yes.
Right? So I'm going to segue into what I want you guys to apologize to Naya for now.
That we want to apologize to?
That I want you. And
if I can,
go ahead.
Ask, yes. Webbo, just before you do that, Webbo, one of the things that all time caught my attention in terms of Mr. Stanley, and maybe I should probably ask a question first and then probably go into it. Have any one of us ever seen Mr. Stanley just and not wearing a tie? I have always seen him, in tie. Even when he comes to the program, it doesn't matter. He's always well dressed, well groomed. And I believe, he took it seriously. I can recall Webbo. I think that could have been sometime last week. I was in conversation with someone, and they said, gas stations used to close on a Sunday, and after Stanley came, they went on a Sunday to look some gas, and they call, and Stanley said, hold on, and they waited almost a half an hour, and they inquired of Stanley why, he took so long. Stanley said he had to just, when Stanley came out, he had on his jacket and tie to serve the gas, But I mean, I think he took dressing as simple as it may sound, really, really, really seriously.
Right. Okay. So I could go ahead now.
Yes.
There's one thing with me, So when you all are doing mine, you'll say you could think Webbo as much as you want, but you come right back and say, okay, so you ready now? So I was saying that just do it and stuff like that, right? And he understood that if you make an effort, you have a chance to succeed.
Yeah.
But if you don't do anything, you're sure you won't get anything. Right? And he just saw that he had a big heart, and he knew that, listen, I'm going to try. I'm going to get it done. Right? And I would often ask persons, what satisfaction you get just to see somebody fail? They do get satisfaction, but to me, I make an effort. You see what I'm saying? So that is one of the aspects of him, and so he would always encourage people to try. The capacity that persons have, if they only get the ability to explore that capacity, it's powerful. I sometimes, maybe I'm trying to do something and I see some clowns trying to get in the way, and depending on what mood I'm in, I might tell them, by the way, this thing will be done, this thing will be done, in an effort to tell them the foolishness that you're trying is not going to deter me. You know what I'm saying? So that is the kind of thing that Stanley, you heard him in the clip, they throw him overboard, right? He said, this is another light moment that I like. When Stanley and Stanley manager said to me, ask Stanley how come he thank everybody and not his manager. Stanley said, because there were a mole planted in my campaign. They were sent. Anyway, let's get another clip from him.
I must also say thanks on behalf of for the award that had been given to Vaughan Radio and the little role that we play with reference to disseminating information and to keep this particular program at the level and the interest, and to keep the interest of the people who are listening. And it is heartening to hear that people are so patriotic, their heart, their soul, their mind are here. And every individual should have that type of attitude. That's why I said it's an obligation for me to be here to disseminate information.
Anybody?
Well, of course, Webbo, he was a big part of that remarkable team who comes here on a Tuesday night, time after time, week after week, month after month, to disseminate that information to the people. He felt, as he would have said, was an obligation, and he took that obligation very seriously. When I came, Webbo, like I said, both him and Albert Myers made it very clear, lucidly clear, that if I was not serious and if you do not take this obligation seriously, then tell Webbo, forget it. And it was something that they understood. It was something that they recognized, that once you are here, you have to fulfill that obligation. And he lived that obligation, Webbo. He came, and like I said, he was one of those individuals who was not afraid to speak truth to power. You know, he was not afraid to say to anybody that what you're talking is foolishness. And that was just the kind of person who I feel was one of those individuals on this program who helped to catapult, so to speak, this radio station to the many awards and the many recognitions that Vaughan Radio is a family. The team here is a team that embrace all of us as part of their family, and Edric W. Stanley was, in my mind, an integral player, an integral member, an integral contributor to this family affair here that we call Vaughan Radio.
I think he was the right person for the right time. You know, he was there at the beginning of this program, and with his kind of personality, and he saw it as a duty, you know, and he felt he had that responsibility when he speaks about disseminating information, which I think he have enlightened the island to a great extent. He have enlightened the people. With his many ideas, I suppose he has really stimulate, you know, people's mind, you know, and establish certain projections in people's mind. I think he was the right person at the right time on the right program. I mean, he spent a generation here, over 30-something years, and he never gets killed. You never get fed up of him, you know, and he had that passion from day one right through these many years, contributing on every notion, and you know, making his contribution to every topic that's on the table, and you know, and I think really and truly his contribution to this program goes beyond any other so far. I would say except you, Webbo, who is the founder of the program, and you know, I can't recall Stanley missing the program. I can't recall Stanley over the many years that I've been here. I probably been here. Only if Stanley looked like he never used to get ill either. and you know, Stanley was a bush doctor.
Well,
Stanley believed in bush medicine to a great extent, and I did ask myself, did he go to the doctor? Even when he became unwell, really. But I, over the many years that I've been here, probably 17 or 18 years, Stanley have not been absent more than 3 times, as far as I check. You know, always here, even when he's not feeling well. You know, he will try and come forward, you know, to disseminate the information. He didn't always get it right. He was, to a great extent, quite controversial as well. But, you know, in terms of that personality, that robust personality, that conviction that what he stands for, whatever he's defending, he's going to defend it tooth and nail. That's the term he used to use. And I think he was just the right person at the right time on the right program. And that's why I think his contribution seems to be above all others, you know, up to this point. You know, and I don't think we can mention Let's Talk without mentioning Stanley. And as I say, he was always the first to be mentioned in any conversation about this program.
Let me do this.
It's finished. He is cooked. Hillary Clinton is going to be the next president of the United States, unless it is by divine intervention. And I'm saying this, we all are citizens of this world.
Let me start that again. Okay. Let me. It caught me off guard because I was distracted. So let me start that again because I told you all that.
I wonder where you want to start that again.
Walk with me.
It's finished. He is cooked. Hillary Clinton is going to be the next president of the United States, unless it is by divine intervention. And I'm saying this, we all are citizens of this world. We want tranquility, we want prosperity, and we want a peace of mind.
So you just felt that we needed a light moment?
No, I'm saying to you, he is slated to lose big time. I know one of my great friends called in and he asked me to make a prediction as to how the vote is going to go. Trump cannot get those numbers that he would like to propel him into the presidency. Trump is not going to make it.
Okay, I put back on your mics.
Well, I believe that you know, Stanley was really anti-Trump. But you see the thing with Stanley.
Give me a second. That's what you believe on that note, right? I believe contrary. You said he was anti-Trump, but that's who Stanley was. If he believed in his horse, so to speak, nobody's going to tell him his horse is injured, so take it out of the race. He can leave it in, right? So his horse wasn't Trump, right? And he is so clever. You hear what he said?
Divine.
Unless
yes,
divine intervention. So always, that was his ace.
He had that caveat.
Yeah, that's his ace. Yeah, we are just going.
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to say. You know, he was so, you know, clever in what he says. You know, that he even, you know, is like a backup. You know, if there's, you know, some divine intervention. So I guess we all consider that, you know, in hindsight now, you know, it was divine intervention, because Hillary Clinton did lost the elections and Trump, you know, came up trumps, as he did last week again. You know, but I like, you know, the part when he say he's cooked, he's done.
Webbo,
what am I see?
I believe Mr. Stanley's caveat of divine intervention again holds true in this particular election. Mr. Stanley held the strong view again that Donald Trump will not win this election. The second time around, Webbo, I believe that if Mr. Stanley was here this time around, he would have been perhaps extremely devastated to see that Trump was once again in the White House. He would have expressed his preference, and so as many of us would have. And I think, Webbo, that when you step back and you look at the philosophy and the thinking of Edric Stanley, I believe that, in my mind, appreciating the fact that once again Trump was able to defeat his opponent and became the President of the United States elect. The question now would have been, what would Mr. Stanley now say? And looking at it, we will never know, because it, in my mind, through divine intervention, Mr. Stanley was called home to take his rest. I know that he was a deeply spiritual and religious individual. He attended the St. John's Anglican Church there, right opposite his doors. And he was someone who always gives that caveat of divine intervention. And even Webbo, in his tragic incident and moment that he would have had and suffered, that painful experience, Mr. Stanley would say to you that it was divine intervention why he was able to survive. This election, I believe that he would have said it was indeed divine intervention as to why Trump is once again the President of the United States of America.
So, for your explanation, you're using Stanley's words?
No. Well, I'm just... Well, I think I can embrace those words, because in other
words, the answer is yes?
Yes, Webbo. In my wildest dream, Webbo, I never thought that Trump would have won, to be honest.
Well, maybe there was divine intervention, because then maybe this was a factor in the election, because many people who have heard spoken after the election said that the fact that he survived that first assassination attempt
was divine intervention.
It was divine intervention for the purpose
of him becoming president.
Of him becoming the president. And you'd be surprised that carried a bit of weight. Mm-hmm. That carried a bit of weight with rural America, who seems to me, have some spirituality with them. They profess to be Christian. They are not very secular-minded people. It looks like they're very much not into this trance and this what can I say, this gay stuff that seems to be advanced to a certain extent by the Democratic Party. They in one or two interviews, they spoke to morality, and I'm not sure how much they can speak to Trump as a morally upright person, but they speak to the return of morality to the United States. And yes, they look at his at him surviving that very close call as divine intervention, and I don't think many of us can think otherwise, we would simply say lucky. You know, I mean, to just shift your head and your ear get tip off is really something to think about. And for those who are spiritually inclined, you know, they can find some comfort in saying that it was a divine intervention. But apart from it all, I think Trump was able to rally the working class people. He was able to reach the working class people. I think the Democratic Party in some way did not impact on the working class solutions, you know, and I think to a great extent America is the middle class, you know, coupled with inflation, and I think the middle class seems to need some attention, which I think Trump provided that type of attention in some way or the other, and I think that was key in his victory. I think I mean, little gestures like going to McDonald's, I mean, believe me, these things go a long way in the political scheme of things. And it seems as if like the Democratic Party has become the party of the elite and the so-called educated, and Trump was able to really reach the exploits of the exploited, and I think that was the real source of his victory, his overwhelming victory. You know, to be quite honest with you, I said Trump on that night, but I wasn't certain at all. I wasn't certain, but I also knew that the polls that we were hearing wasn't correct at all, and very far from correct, and so, but like everyone else, I was totally surprised with the wipeout, with Trump winning so strong all across America. So I think, can we learn anything from that election at all here in this little island, in this little federation?
Yeah.
You know, you can't forget the working class. It's not so distinct here in the federation, but you cannot forget the working class, and you cannot make them feel like they've been abused. It's a very serious part of things, you know, and you must not make them feel like you're trying in any way to be in a different class to them, and they are just there to be dictated to. You got to be very mindful about these little things. As I say, we are not so socially defined here, but in America, I think Trump was able to be that figure that claimed to represent more the cause of the working class. And as one political commentator said, that you know, you forget the working class going to forget you. Mm-hmm. You know, it's very, very serious. The working class is always the majority. You know, and so I hope we can learn from what have taken place in America.
Webbo.
Well, I could tell you, I already called this election. I said before, 52 Hillary, 48 Trump. I could bring the number a little closer, 51-49, to make you feel a little better. He may make it. But based on what the practicalities are and the dynamics that are current, Trump is nowhere on the radar screen with reference to victory. The Lord anoints and appoints, and the Lord determines leaders of countries. If he gets there, it is by divine intervention.
And if he gets there by that, then you'll say what?
Well, of course, the Master has spoken.
So then you would come on board at that point in time?
Still wouldn't support him.
Even if the Lord put him there?
No, I would never. Trump can't catch Hillary again, you know. Trump is dead. Dead in the water.
With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Full disclosure, I didn't choose those clips, huh? My team chose them. I'm just hearing them for the first time, meaning, you know, my folks are so good. I just tell them I need some stuff, they do it, and I'm just hearing them for the first time. So I'm enjoying them just as you. I didn't have a thing to do with them. Now, he wasn't in, of course, for this race. Yes. But all you had to do was just change your name. He would have said the same thing.
Yes.
He would have said the same thing. Harris, he should beat him. He's dead in the water. And that's the point. He was so strong with his views and his Lord.
Yep.
Right. But listen closely. So when the Lord now, by divine intervention, put him there, therefore you will walk with him? No!
Yeah, you go against it now.
I'm very pleased and excited to present to you the super heavyweight, Edric W. Stanley. Edric, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. Good evening to the people, good people of St. Kitts Nevis. And good evening to the people of the wider Caribbean and those who would be listening to us on the World Wide Web. And I must say, praise the Lord. Praise the Lord for having spared my life to not only be here in person on VON Radio, but once again to speak to the people of St. Kitts Nevis and the people throughout the world on the World Wide Web via VON Radio. I must take this opportunity, Webbo, to thank the many congregations throughout the nation of St. Kitts Nevis, St. Thomas and St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, and New York for having remembered me in their prayers, and also for those who have shed tears for the ordeal that had been perpetrated on me, and also the nation of St. Kitts Nevis, with reference to what happened to me on the 30th of May 2007. I am back from the jungle more rapidly than I expected. Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord. You hear the man? When I went to see Edric, by the way, for those of you who don't know, he was shot. And when I went to see him in the hospital, I think I went maybe a day or two after, because I couldn't get there before because it hurt. And I was so sad. So I went and I said, so Edric, you know, what's happening? So Edric said, boy, they put me down, but they couldn't knock me out. And that cheered me up. I went to see if I can cheer up the man cheered me up. Right? The last conversation I had with him a few weeks ago, I called him and I said, Edric, you can make it? And he said, boy, no. He said, boy, Webbo, I don't. I said, but remember, they put you down, but they can't knock you out. He laughed. He said, you know the thing, man. you know the thing. And so you knew that it was a guy who sort of was on the ropes. Yeah. But he was fighting. Yeah. He was fighting. He said, man, you know the thing, man. You know, so, you know, but like I said, even as the callers, by the way, if you want to call, please call 469-1616 or 1700 and tell us what you think. But that was the fight in the guy, the encouragement that he put in us, and always with a light moment, you know. Let me see this again.
I was very careful in not choosing or not stating a percentile amount the night when we were asked the question to give a prediction.
In other words, you waited until the numbers were in to say that was what you were going to say?
No. Exactly. I said that it would be in the yes column, but those numbers were not there. And I kept saying that to people all day today. Anyway, sometimes it is obvious that people do want to put you in a spot. And I cannot understand how a brilliant fellow like Mark cannot remember the exact quote that I have quoted. I said it in the past, and I've said it over and over, that clause 113 is constitutionally unconstitutional.
Forgive me, my friend.
that was Mark and Ted.
And Edric.
And Edric.
Yes.
Yeah, three. I don't know. How a little fella like me manage between those fellas? That's why I put them in different rooms. That's why I'm in a different room, because I couldn't survive with them fellas, you know. Yeah, there was some. Before you go, Brian, let's do another one.
CBI belongs to Nevis. CBI belongs to St. Kitts. CBI belongs to the nation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And as a result, we need honorable men and women to honor their commitment. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what is owing to Nevis. Simple math.
Simple math. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. How are you?
I am good, and you?
Fine, man. I missed you too. I was wondering if all of you plan to drop out.
That's why I put them.
You know, I keep listening, and I miss your voice. I miss the other person's voice. You know? I really miss Edric, you know. I used to laugh when, let me turn on this radio again. I used to laugh when you would try to tie him up. No matter which angle you took, he stuck to his point. And sometimes he felt you were right, you know, but he was not going to give in. You know, I like his voice, I like his spirit. And I admired him for his efforts. You know, as you said, he went different places, but he did something. And that's an inspiration. I used to listen to that advertisement, land cost 1 million, something. I said, well, boy, Edric well off, 10% of that is his. I mean, so much acres, some 100,000, I said, boy. You know, but I admire him because there are not many people who are positive. But I used to get fun. You will ask him the question, you change the angle. You know, sometimes when you think you're right, he holds his peace. You know, and so I miss him. And as I said, I miss you and I miss the other one. And I'm glad for your spirit too. To come week after week.
Yep.
And educate. But I was wondering, what would he do if he was alive when Trump win?
We just gave you an idea. He would say it's divine intervention.
Somebody kill him?
No, he would say, well, remember he was alive when Trump won the first time.
I know, but this time, because I kept listening to him, you know, with the campaign.
Yes.
I didn't know he was really sick.
Well, it was
like a shock to me, really.
Yeah,
he
was down a little. He was fighting, but you know that happens.
Well, as you say, down but not out.
Yes.
And that is the spirit that we all need, you know. We get pushed back, but we come back. I guess we do so because there are people out there who motivate us, who inspire us to push on. So when it is funeral.
We don't know yet. As soon as we know, we will, let you know.
All right. But you'll come on your station for sure.
Definitely.
And how is Mr. Hobson? Because I still like to hear him and Mr. Hobson.
Yeah, Hobson is doing good. He doesn't come to the show now, but he is listening. So if you said hello, he will appreciate it.
Good night, Mr. Hobson. You know, I admire people like that, you know. I admire people. They tried everything. They went to Jamaica, they do this, they do that. Wherever they go, wherever you plant them, they bloom. And that is something that should inspire our people. You know, not to get bogged down and blame the size of the country. I just call it small islandness to affect the way you think. So may God bless all the listeners, all the panelists. I really missed one the other condolences. I think they said his mother died. What's his name again? He's there tonight.
Oh, Naya. Naya is here, yes.
Well, I like Naya. I like the spirit too.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So we have good spirited condolences.
Thank you.
You know, so to all those who are listening, all those who are grieving or whatever. Because nowadays you look like as soon as you ring somebody gone. So, God bless you, God bless all the listeners.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate it, and you know, dearly, that we appreciate the contribution you make, because you and all the listeners, you make whatever it is we do.
Edric.
Yes.
Can't keep me down.
That's
God bless.
Yeah. All right. Take care. Thank you. Yes. Who was it?
Webbo, Carla made a statement in her telephone call, wherever you plant them, they bloom. And I think Naya was alluding to that fact that Edric Stanley was saying to us, listen, you have to get up and you have to do what you need to do to get ahead. Carla captured that as well. And that was, in my mind, the kind of message and this kind of sentiment that that Edric was trying to spread to the people, spread to our people, spread to his people here in the Federation, that it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter where you came from, you have a certain level of attributes and salient, right? And you plant yourself in a particular place and position, and you have to bloom. And I think that when Naya spoke about the fact that Stanley did not accept this phenomenon of unemployment, that is what Stanley was talking about. You have the ability to bloom wherever, and the caller captured that as well. You have the ability to apply yourself, dig deep, and become productive. Yeah.
Yes. He was an optimist to the fullness. And as I said, a lot can be learned from Stanley, really. And I hope throughout the many years, a lot of people have actually been enlightened by his theory and philosophy. You know, no unemployment in Nevis in any way for him, because he believes that there must be something that you can engage with and make a living. And I share that to a great extent too. There are times we simply don't try hard enough. We are quick to blame the government, we are quick to blame some other shortcomings that sometimes doesn't even exist. And we are not ready to apply ourselves, you know, to the circumstance of life, really, and and it brings about failures. And if too many of us seems to adapt that type of approach, then we have a lazy, non-productive, failing society. You know, it's simply about numbers. And so Stanley was an inspiration. Stanley returned here, and to a great extent he had some skepticism, because he felt like some people want to exploit him in the area of construction. He built his own buildings.
Naya, let me get this, I'll come back to you. Good evening, thank you for holding. Go ahead, Naya.
In the area of construction, he built his own buildings. Stanley opened up business from day one. He returned here as his rentals and all that, you know. Stanley made a name for himself in a big way in St. Crikes. I used to hear about this guy from Nevis named Stanley in St. Crikes. Stanley made inroads into the political, scenery in St. Crikes. And so he was that go-getter. He was a successful person, because I think he was highly motivated, and he doesn't really see much of an obstacle other than your unwillingness to do things. And I think very much an inspiration. You know, I sit in here next to Stanley. I've learned a lot, to be quite honest, about life from Mr. Stanley.
How many times? Yeah, I know you've done it many times, and that's one of the things people don't understand. How many times you'll hear me start this and he will finish? The heights that great men reach and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upward through the night. Now, everybody speaks about Stanley now, the contribution he's made. People talk about the show, what we've done over the past 30-something years. But how about the part where when we started the show, for weeks and months and years, people will go by Stanley's shop and discourage him from coming on the show. Stanley said it here, we have it on tape, he said it many times. Oh boy, Webbo only wanted to do this and go and thing, and so why? Because they wanted the show to fail.
Yes.
And people do that all the time. That is why I always say, especially on my other show, and I say no, I ain't interested in nobody come give me no story. I don't care what it is. Because most of the time, you ever hear anybody comes to you with an idea, such a great idea, it probably will make you rich? Man, you should do this. Now you do business, some people will come and tell you, man, you should do this, do that, and so on. Ask yourself, why do these people love me more than they love themselves? They see an opportunity to get rich, but they are pushing me to die. Ask yourself that. And they're poor, right? So people do that a lot. So they discourage Stanley at the beginning and Ted and everybody else, and even you, as the others, you all come along. They'll come sometime in a sarcastic way. But you guys don't buy it. You do what you got to do. You make a contribution and you understand it. So I just making the point that is not easy. It's not easy. It's a little easier now, right? But those days weren't easy. Let's do this.
Respect for Edric Douglas, but Edric Douglas is not going to say to me from Cox that he can be the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, and I am from Cox. He was St. Paul's could be Prime Minister of me, and I from Cox can be Prime Minister of him. I support that. So I ain't. But my argument is I don't have nothing to say about this session because it is a political red herring cooked up by Ted and Vance and them in order to pull themselves back. Because I'll tell you, every time you have in Nevis, in St. Kitts and Nevis, I was in St. Kitts in 1980 when they had the road project, when they had the airport project. There was Collas, there was the airport project, there was the seaporter bill. Labour lose. 1993, Simmons came back here on the road and never seen $200 million project. I remember you asked him where was from Nevis. He come to me, the project was coming from outer Mars as far as Pluto.
Okay, that's Hastings R. Daniel. Those were the days when he was on the show. And who said that we don't accommodate every view from every corner of the globe? And that is how classical Hastings was in putting over the point that he had to make. He do it with such force, competence, and a lot of times humor. What a lot of people don't understand in terms of being effective in communicating is humor.
Yes.
If you can make people laugh, Doc tell me you're half the way already. Right? You remember how lucky a fellow was who was able, a foolish fellow, to make a princess smile? He get her. So that humor is important. So that was, and that's again is the point I was making, in that I don't even know, I have so much confidence in my folks what they did, because I said let's get this and I didn't know what was coming up. And so let's get this now.
Every time you hear 6 months before election, man a paved road. I remember 1992, Victor Martin shut out some dot in town. These dot and stone projects don't make no country. And let us make the point. I mean, people talking about the waterfront, of course. look good, but I mean, that look good, that is like a young lady. She goes out, she does not have on any nice clothes, she doesn't even eat, but she has a mouth whoosh, a nice little lipstick and a hairdo. That don't make nothing, you know. What makes a country sustainable development? I will point and challenge anybody to tell me what is this I'm doing Nevis in order to put work in people's pocket, because the people not put the work in nobody's pocket. Neither would that waterfront, he has never done and never will, although the 5 times it has been done over. The airport is not done. We want to see a project, a hotel project, something that gives people employment and develop people. And right now, we know what they're saying, you know. Projects, you stop them with people.
Yeah, Hastings, you know, Hastings was a good guy. Let me say that. And the last time I spoke to Hastings, I said to Hastings, you know what, Hastings? I want to say thank you to you. Because I've owned 2 pieces of land that I bought from government, and Hastings facilitate me. There was a scheme, I can say this on the air, where you pay $3,000 and you come back in 3 months with the rest money. I came back in 3 years. And I said, Hastings, but you hold the land for me. You held the land for me. And he looked at me and said, Naya, I believe that every Nivision should be able to own a piece of the rock. That's the last time I talked to Hastings. I just saw him and I walked up to him and I said, thank you, man, because you know, the 2 pieces of land that I bought from government, you did facilitate me. And I have not spoken to him again. I think he was a good-hearted person, you know, very funny in his articulation, and of course he has his political conviction, something you can't be upset with anyone about. But he made his contribution to the program. He made his contribution to Nevis. He was a personality in town, moving through and through. He says sometimes business are not good, but he sometimes just walk with a brown envelope and he might go downtown and things change completely one time. You know, that type of spirit he had, you know. And so you know, I like Hastings. I find he was a good person.
Walk with me, because I'm a fellow who, if I see a good player, I bow it. So even when things don't look so good,
yeah,
get a brown envelope.
You just walk with a good
walk with it downtown.
Yeah.
And things might work out.
Yeah, things can change.
I got you.
So that was another optimist.
Brian, you think it's me? Yeah. I alone people tell those kind of things, or they tell them to everybody?
No, I think I think most of us get them, but you have a special attraction for people to pull towards it, to give you some of those
I figured
outlandish.
So. Yeah. Go ahead, yeah.
Yes, in Daniel, I've had my own interaction with him as a young businessman, getting into the market of property valuation and things like that. I remember one conversation in particular when I did a valuation on a property, and I think I believe that he had some persons who had some interest in the property, and I think that he was not too happy with my fees, and he made it very clear, Webbo, that you have to make a living and earn a living in this country. You cannot be giving away your services when you're going to be taking on these kind of serious responsibility in these kind of transactions. That was a conversation I had with him, and I believe, Webbo, that I think kind of give me some perspective in terms of certain things that I needed to apply in that aspect of my business. And he was frank and upfront. He said, listen, you know, when you have these people spending these kind of money to acquire this kind of property, you have to earn a living from it. And I appreciate what he was saying. However, it is no secret that Hastings Daniel was a opposed to the political party which I'm a part of. He was a deep-rooted backbone of the Nevis Reformation Party, and his views towards CCM, I believe, is well known. But I think, Webbo, that he stood on certain very strong principles, very, very strong principles, similar to Stanley, but he stood on certain very strong principles, and he was not afraid, just like Edric, to make his position very clear. Not disrespectful or anything. He comes across in his kind of flamboyant and humorous way, but he made his position in support of his political party very clear. And that for me was one of the things that I held him in very high respect and regard, because he can say to you, listen, A is A and B is B, and then he move on. And he did not really hold any, in my mind, in my interaction with him, any animosity towards you as somebody who support the other party. And that I felt was a principled position. He was a man, Webbo, of many talents. He was, in my mind, I thought that he was one of the...
Brad, let me get this. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo. I was thinking about the funeral of them. Has it gone already, or is it going to be broadcast?
Funeral of who? Edric W?
Right, yeah.
They haven't scheduled it as yet.
Okay. So it's gonna be broadcast on Von Radio?
I'm not sure, I don't know yet, but I know normally these funerals, all of the funeral homes normally do them on YouTube anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And as soon as we get word when it is, we'll let you know.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks very much for the show.
Mm-hmm.
You have a great show.
Mm-hmm. All right, thanks.
And I like very much when you talk about you have a good laugh every now and then on the show.
Oh, the light moment.
The light moment. The light moment. It makes things more acceptable, or more palatable. When you laugh and you kind of relax the nervous system,
No. You know why I do that? I have a mentor named Doc, the Doc. And throughout life, Doc tell me, if you're speaking with someone, but I don't want them other fellas to hear, but he said with a girl, and you make her laugh, you're half the way through. But we appreciate...
The other thing you usually say, you said this, Webbo, work with me, man. I love that.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, I love that a lot.
Yeah.
Work with you, man.
Yeah, work with me. Yeah.
In the height of that person on the other line, blood pressure going up, you said, work with me, man. Work with me.
Yeah. All right, we appreciate
I love your show.
Okay, we appreciate you listening.
Thanks very much for entertaining us.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Right. Bran.
Well, I was saying Hastings Daniel was, in my mind, a man of many talent, many skills. I know that he was oftentimes a preacher, a very in-tune businessman. But I find Webbo, listening to him, I find that he was in my mind, one of the better cricket commentators here on the island of Nevis, and I would even dare say in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. His descriptive wordcraft and crafty commentary when it comes around cricket here on the island of Nevis, and over on St. Kitts, when he would do that from time to time, brought in my mind the game really to life. And listening to him, you can get a really clear picture as to what is really taking place on the field. And I thought that there were very few who had that kind of craftiness about cricket commentary and how he was explaining to the listeners the game and the on-site and the on-field play. I thought that he was extremely good on that.
Webbo, I want to chime in here because I knew Hastings, to a certain degree. As I said last week, we both, gave running commentary on the Mart Cross Preparatory School sports over the years. And what I have found is that Mr. Daniel was a man of many words, and he knew exactly how to craft his speeches. He knew how to put over his word. Listening to one of the clips that he played, it might have been the first clip, when he was speaking to secession, when he said political red herring. That really hurt me. Mr. Brown would have said about cricket. I think that he was really a good cricket analyst. He knew the game inside out. He brought it to life. He painted a vivid picture, as Brian alluded to. I want to support that. And when I spoke to Lance, it kind of jogged my memory. I can recall it might have been late 90s or early 2000. Mr. Daniel was in the Zion area. He was around, politics was in the, I think, there was campaigning. And I remember he came into a particular shop and he said, you know what these guys should do? These guys should get some lands and bust up the lands them and give you young guys, so young guys can get a piece of the rock. So based on what Naya said, I believe that he was always one who wanted, persons to own a piece of the rock. I really didn't remember that until Naya spoke to owning piece of the rock. So, I believe, and as I said, this was said in the Zion area in a particular shop, either late 90s or very early 2000s. So I believe that, that he really wanted, better for all divisions. I believe that he thought, and I endorse that too, owning piece of the rock is the way to go. And so, I am really happy, Webbo, that I was able to meet him and to be in company with him, and he was one who, as we say colloquially in local parlance, bustle at the jokes. Even on the mic, he would say, and that looked like a Daniel lagging behind there. Daniel, that's a Daniel boy. What are you doing behind there? Get up and run! Get up and run! And he was really jovial, and he brought the crowd to life and stuff like that. And I think that he too would be dearly missed.
The Navy's Reformation Party is appalled at the treatment meted out to it in relation to the visit of the CARICOM delegation to Nevis on Thursday, September 10, 1998. The CARICOM delegation, we are reliably informed, spent the night of Wednesday and the entire day Thursday in Nevis on a fact-finding mission relative to the ill-fated referendum and the proposed reform of the Constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis. The delegation spent the entire duration speaking with the members of the CCM leadership and their lackeys. The Nevis Island government was to make arrangements for the delegation to speak to the leader of the opposition and his delegation. This diplomatic and logical courtesy was deliberately not extended. At 7 p.m. on the night of Thursday, the leader of the opposition was called rather belatedly by the delegation when it had returned to St. Kitts and was asked if he could meet with them that same evening.
Guess where this thing was played initially?
Radio. Right here on One Radio.
And how the clowns them say?
I don't.
Let me do another one.
In the interest of the people of Nevis, Mr. Parry hurried across the waters to speak with the delegation. He returned to Nevis over troubled seas by boat nigh on midnight. The Nevis Reformation Party has learned that all kinds of political has-been, non-entities and hopefuls were granted audience with the CARICOM delegation while on Nevis. The Nevis Reformation Party notes the deliberate intention of the CCM government to marginalize and to treat it as non-existent. The Nevis Reformation Party strongly condemns these acts of political machination and subterfuge by the CCM administration. The party, however, is fully committed to defending the peace, progress and prosperity of the people of Nevis, howbeit against all these odds. The party stands tried, tested and true in its service to the people of Nevis.
Yes, that's my boy Hastings. Well, exhibiting the
what's machination and substitute.
Yeah, such words. I mean, you can't refute his choice of words there. Strong words. But listening to Hastings, being a part of the heavyweight, it also highlights the impartiality of One Radio, which is sometimes taken for granted by some people. And I think we must remind ourselves here as panelists on the show that we can speak our mind. We can speak our mind because, I mean, that's why we're here, and not to be channeled in any particular direction or thoughts. And so that's Hastings speaking, in such manner about his political party and the way his political party was treated back in 1998 when there was a CARICOM delegation here. And so I say tribute to One Radio and in exhibiting such impartiality.
Well, bro, I thought that I remember that presentation by Hastings Daniel. It was after the failed
referendum.
I thought, Webbo, that you and One Radio ought to be given quite a bit of credit, because over the years, Webbo, you have adopted, in my mind, certain principled position. All are welcome, but there are certain guidelines. And once any individual is willing to fall within those guidelines, you can have your say. And I felt that you and the radio station have, in my mind, been a significant contributor to the development of the political discourse here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I feel, Webbo, that tonight, while we are here paying tribute and homage to two distinguished gentlemen, two individuals who would have came and who would have made their contribution and who would have, in my mind, changed the landscape of Nevis in their various ways. In the midst of all of this, One Radio was front and center. And I feel that as we honor these gentlemen and as we pay tribute to them, we feel that the common denominator, the common conduit was One Radio. And it shows that everyone has an opportunity to come to this platform that we have here, that has been called, and it may have been by divine intervention, and I think we are using that word here tonight, that this radio station name is the Voice of Nevis. And I think that Webbo, in my mind, is a great tribute that we can pay to these two gentlemen, that they came, they contributed, and they were able to inspire in their own various ways.
I like to say, Brian, that's how we debate, you know.
Yes.
And a lot of folks just run away and said that, you know, Trump is so afraid he lose, he said the thing ain't fair. When last you hear him say it ain't fair?
He was already setting up an argument.
This is what I'm saying, right? So we debate, and we do it live, so that everybody can hear and make their own conclusion, right? And you always would hear me say, from my standpoint, I love a good debate.
Yes.
Because when I'm ready for your cross-examination,
you like an honest debate as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. Who's got the last word?
Well, Webbo, I believe that we have to shout out kudos to you for, you know, honoring, I would say, these two legends, you know, two persons who I think that were really strong-minded individuals.
Let me give this first and let you finish up, okay? Caller, you got 30 seconds.
Webbo Herbert.
Yes.
Mark Brantley, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm okay, brother. Good to hear your voice. I'm still only up 30 seconds, but I just wanted to use the occasion to express my deep condolences on the loss of a Trinivision stalwart, Edric W. Stanley. As you know, we go a long way back. He has always been there for me. They've always had a very good relationship, and I couldn't allow the show to end and not lend my voice to the voices of the many who are expressing condolences to his family on his loss. I think all of Nevis has lost a great son. And so I extend my condolences, Webbo. I just needed to call and say that.
And you know, we appreciate it so much because you've been in the jungle over here. As a matter of fact, in the background or something, we heard, you know, you're trying to defend yourself. You're on Ted. But we did some, you know, have some good memories of us here on the heavyweight show. So, Mr. Brantley, thank you very much.
Yes, my brother. Good night.
Yes, okay. Five here?
Yes, Webbo, I was saying that, you know, those two gentlemen who has passed on, you know, were very strong-minded, and, you know, they would have made their mark, and, you know, kudos to you, Mr. Herbert, and the radio station for, you know, just reliving some of them and giving, you know, persons the opportunity to call in and, you know, and to relive it and to give their tributes and their condolences.
It is, of course, a great gesture, Webbo, to dedicate this evening to these two outstanding personalities, and of course, as Mr. Brand say, the common denominator being Von Radio, to me, again, have exhibit great tendencies of impartiality, and you know, represent its very name quite efficiently as the voice of Nevis.
This program repeats at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. Join Keith Scarborough on Thursday evening at 8 o'clock right here in the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse for Government at Work. A place to spend all of your evenings right here. Thank you all again for joining us. Your voice in the community, thought that get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
Views and opinions expressed on the preceding program are solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its